Hey, howdy hey, and welcome back to Emily's Adventures in Horrorland. So the last review got a bit eventful. I've excused Raggett and Killjoy for the time being, as they both need to recuperate. Albus Dumbledore had got to his feet. He was beaming at the students, his arms opened wide, as if nothing could have pleased him more than to see them all there. Welcome, he said. Welcome to a new year at Hogwarts. But none of that is going to spoil the celebratory nature of this video. Not only is it just past Halloween, but it is also the 2-year anniversary of this channel, and I could not be happier about it. In the past year I've met some fantastic people, I've reviewed some pretty interesting movies, good and bad, and I've also teamed up with these two. I kind of get used to having them around. Anyway, today I'm reviewing one of my all-time favourite horror movies, Hellraiser. Now this was a request from Michael Leroy, who has a series here on YouTube called Bad Creepypasta, which I'm a massive fan of as well. Yeah, cool, cheers, you're welcome, whatever, bro, dude, thing. And I suppose it wouldn't be a Halloween-style review without my getting into costume. Now, can I do the hand-clappy transition thing without disturbing the webcam? We shall see. I guess not. This is meant to be the female Cenobite, whose name was originally Deep Throat on set, but they changed it. I guess the world at large couldn't handle these supernatural kinkmeisters from hell having suggestive nicknames. Either that or they didn't like visual puns. Either or. The word guilty pleasure probably doesn't describe this film accurately, because the character of Pinhead, or the lead Cenobite, is iconic, and the film is widely respected, if not the entire franchise. However, as much as I love this film, I am aware of many of its shortcomings, so let's look at some of them today. I have such sights to show you. So the first thing we see is two men with equally filthy fingernails negotiating the sale of this glorified Rubik's Cube, also known as the Lament configuration. We then see one of them, Frank Cotton, in the most well-insulated attic in the Western world, judging by how much he's sweating. Actually, hang on. I don't think I see any insulation here. Now, where have I seen that face before? Eureka. Upon solving the box, the Cenobites turn up, along with their hooks and chains and whatever the hell this is. Some kind of rotating display stand with body parts instead of sunglasses. Now, the effects in this film are a bit hit and miss. It was made at the time for about $1 million, which is fine, but a lot of the time it's very obviously latex and red corn syrup. But don't worry, I'll be pointing out the better effects as we go along. Well, that one's interesting. Sometime later, we see a family moving into the now missing Frank's former abode. There's Larry Cotton, the stolid brother of Frank, Julia, his second wife, and Kirsty, his daughter. Kirsty's lovely. She's about the only person in this film who is. I hate you, Jesus.
He's obviously made one of his famous getaways. What the hell's that?
It's a phone, bro. Calm down.
How's things in there?
Looks like a bomb dropped.
You got any beer?
There's some in the fridge.
Oh well. Why don't I get it?
As the movers come in to deliver some furniture, Julia chooses now of all times to have a flashback. We learn what kind of person Frank was in life, a reckless hedonist with a rapacious appetite for pretty much anything going. We also learn that he and Julia were having a torrid affair since before she married Larry.
What about Larry?
Forget him.
Oh, bloody hell, breaking out the weapons already. Is that how he shuts down all protestations? And here's your hot chocolate, Mr. Cotton. We are out of whipped cream at the moment. Sorry. Really? Again? Alright. But this is my own personal cream, I'll have you know. Now, originally there was going to be some paddle spanking in the flashback portion. But this was cut because, again, people have delicate sensibilities. The film, artistically, syncs up their shenanigans with Larry and the movers trying to get a mattress up the stairs.
Pivot!
And whoops, that's not convincing at all. Larry rushes into the room, dripping corn syrup all over the shop, and the floor of the empty room sucks it up. Well, alright. Now here cometh my favourite sequence in the whole movie. First of all, the music. Oh, so ominous. So hellish. Then we get Frank coming back to life. Oh, it's so gorgeous! I love body horror so much. I mean, the mind boggles. What in the world did those Cenobites do to Frank to reduce him to this? What did they do to him? I don't even know what half that stuff oozing out of the floor even is. Does anybody know? Answers on a postcard, please. He does eventually form into something human-like, although he's seen better days. Julia's pretty shocked to discover him, as you'd expect.
Just help me, will you? Please, God, help me!
Did you know that Frank's lines were entirely dubbed in by another actor? I totally couldn't tell. Frank is now a zombie vampire type person who needs the blood of other people to become whole again. Julia agrees to help him because she No, that's not right. Julia agrees to help because... Yep, that'll be why. This is quite an interesting horror movie. There's a surprising amount of focus on our characters, there are hardly any jump scares.
Hi.
Hi.
And God, the sets are just dripping with atmosphere. You barely even notice that it's completely nonsensical for that many rats and roaches to be running all over the place. Maggots in the ashtray, I mean really, how much of a slob do you have to be? And look at this scene. It's only a nightmare that Kirsty has at the half-hour mark, but it's all part of the atmosphere. The simple horror of viewing a loved one's corpse, dressed up with blood, fire and feathers. It's completely splendid as well as pretentious and ridiculous. Now, Pinhead and his posse are used sparingly in this film. It's good in one sense because it means that we anticipate their return, and it helps to build a sense of dread. However, the trade-off for that is that the first hour of the movie is devoted to Julia getting her evil smirk on. She uses her dashing good looks to pick up victims at the bar, and then traps them in the room so she can kill them and Frank can do something horrible to the bodies. Damn it, I'll never get this blouse clean.
It's making me whole again. Every drop of blood you spill puts more flesh on my bones. And we both want that, don't we?
Yes, flesh might be somewhat useful for what she has in mind. Him.
Come here, damn you, I want to touch you. Come to Daddy.
Ew. Another thing I like about this film that probably doesn't get mentioned enough is the very subtle brand of humour. For instance, the bizarre juxtaposition of carrying a body into the other room as your boring husband whistles to himself downstairs. We should have known she'd become one of the antagonists. She has a British accent, for God's sake. The woman playing her, Claire Higgins, has probably the best acting chops of anyone here. I feel like she has fun with her performance, and it doesn't take long for her character to go from scared and uncertain about murdering innocent sleazeballs to full-blown moustache-twirling, shoulder-pad-having villainy. As for the other actors, they range from okay to utterly wooden. Looking at you, Larry. Alright, to be fair, he and Kirsty have good chemistry with each other. It's very clear he's the favourite parent and that he loves her very dearly in turn. Kirsty herself is alright. She's a good avatar for the viewer. She can also be amusing at times. Frank should get more of a pass because he's being voiced by some other dude.
The Cenobites. It's only a matter of time before they find I've slipped them.
But if we're talking about this film, then acting through a ton of makeup should not be a problem. If these guys can do it, then so can you, Frank. It's all about physicality. So Kirsty is being continuously spooked by a homeless man, for reasons which are not yet clear.
Oh, my God. You get out of here.
Meanwhile, Frank tells Julia that he summoned the Cenobites through the Lament configuration some time ago because he was promised an ultra-sensory experience. And boy howdy did he get one. What are you gasping for, Julia? You weren't there. In the book written by Clive Barker, his initial meeting with the Cenobites goes a little differently. The Hellbound Heart has all the Cenobites having a word with him. In particular, the female Cenobite, who is implied to be their leader. Interesting. They also give Frank the chance to opt out of the scene. Session of suffering. I strongly recommend the book to you, or even the audiobook version, which may still be on YouTube. Very, very good stuff. Yes. When Larry goes to investigate a noise upstairs, Julia tries to distract him, and Frank makes this face.
No. No, please, no, please. I can't bear it, please.
Oi, Larry! What gives? Yeah, took you long enough. I guess blatant disregard for consent must run in the family.
You want a cookie, little girl?
So Frank persuades her to kill just one more, and this murder goes off with barely a hitch. That is until Kirsty sees it with her own eyes. How can we make Frank an even more despicable human being? I know. Let's have him go after his own niece.
It's Frank. It's Uncle Frank.
No.
You remember?
No.
Come to Daddy.
And there's that phrase again. Catch it if you can. Ugh. Kirsty escapes by throwing his precious Lament configuration out of the window. Then she has a fainting spell, as you do, and wakes up in the hospital.
What about this? Ring any bells? You were hanging onto it like grim death.
I don't remember.
Well, the police will want to speak to you. You know that.
Why? I'm sorry, I just love the music so much. With the puzzle box solved, the wall opens up to reveal this, a creature known in the novella as the Engineer. It's pretty terrifying, when you're not focused on the trolley it's being pushed on. I was going to dress as this thing originally, but budget didn't quite stretch to that. And then, of course, the Cenobites turn up in all their splendid splendour. Atmosphere. Was there ever a grander entrance for the goddamn greatest horror anti-heroes ever made? There's something about these beings that's so portentous, and that makes them all the scarier in my opinion. The first time we see them, they're kept in the shadows, their faces concealed. The second time, they're shown in flashback, and the camera lingers a little longer. And now, blinding light and smoke corrupting the room around them. Isn't it great? Out of the four of them, Pinhead has the greatest presence and the most amazing voice.
Nobody escapes us.
I believe the 4 hours a day in the makeup chair put actor Doug Bradley into a kind of trance that serves his performance quite well.
By the end of it, I was definitely in a kind of emotionally dislocated place, which was perfect for playing the character, because that's exactly where he is.
Whereas struggling with the bald cap on my own costume only put me in a bad mood. Kirsty bargains with them, offering Frank in exchange for her own freedom, then rushes to warn her father. Unfortunately, it's a bit late. That's not Larry under there. That's Larry. And the Cenobites don't let her in on this little tidbit of information.
We want the man who did this.
Thank you, Pinhead. I can always depend on you to be pointlessly vague for no reason at all.
Come to Daddy.
Oh, my God.
Come to Daddy.
Dale, Frank! Stop that!
Frank's here.
Bastard!
Your dear old Uncle Frank. What the
hell is that?
What the hell's that?
I love the way Chatterer just gives him a light push.
Start over there, please.
Okay, now this scene was the first I ever saw from the movie. Part of the TV countdown 100 greatest scary moments.
Jesus wept.
Do you know how this scene looked to me without context? And yet the Cenobites are only doing their job. Like many of Clive Barker's monsters, such as Candyman, they can be viewed in a sympathetic light. After all, they only appear when summoned and genuinely believe that they are providing a decent experience for the summoner, blurring the line between pain and pleasure.
Everybody get up.
You can't really be mad at them. Just disappointed. Kirsty then uses all her street smarts to banish the Cenobites back home because I guess they just didn't want to support her deal. Fortunately, Kirsty and her boyfriend survive, but the nightmare is far from over as Homeless Dude turns up to steal back the Lament configuration. Oh, because he was a dragon the whole time. I see. Do you understand how much I love this movie? In a tag video once, I listed Hellraiser as one of the top 3 movies I always enjoy watching, despite its many faults. I know it's not as technically impressive as something like John Carpenter's The Thing. I know it's not as symbolic or thematic as Carrie. In fact, I'm 80% certain that the impressive score is the only thing that holds this movie together. Without it, the movie would have been in trouble. The Cenobites themselves have a kind of dignity and composure which could have carried them through without music, but could not have held up under the wrong music. It's hard to be objective in the face of a movie that introduced me to body horror, but taking into account everything I've said in this review so far, I'm going to give Hellraiser 7 jam sandwiches out of 10. Before I go, I'd like to thank you all sincerely for being here. These last 2 years on YouTube have allowed me to be creative in a way I never could be before, and I'm so happy with the way the channel's turned out. I hope to see you here again soon. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you next time. Cheerio. Yes, flesh might be somewhat useful for what she has in mind. Sorry, Dad.